Traveling is a point of education for the 2022-23 NBA season. The first play will show an example of a traveling violation on the perimeter. Here we will see the highlighted offensive player, LeBron James, establish his right foot as his pivot foot, and he then lifts and drop steps with that right foot prior to his dribble being released. This is a traveling violation, and it was correctly called by the slot official. This next play will show an example of an offensive player taking too many steps after receiving the pass and gathering the ball. The offensive player, Steph Curry, gathers the ball and then commits a violation by taking several steps before then releasing the ball on his shot attempt. Remember, players are only allowed 2 steps after receiving a pass. As we continue to focus on traveling violations, here we will see the highlighted offensive player, D'Angelo Russell, establishes his right foot as his pivot foot, but as he starts to move to the basket, he drags that pivot foot, moving it forward prior to releasing the ball on the dribble. A traveling violation needed to be called on this play. The next point of education to review is freedom of movement, and we will start on the perimeter. The highlighted defensive player, Norman Powell, will move into the path of his opponent, Dwight Powell, and he uses his forearm and shoulder to initiate illegal contact and deliver a blow to his opponent. This off-ball contact by Powell is illegal, and the defensive foul is correctly called by the slot official. The freedom of movement guidelines include illegal contact initiated by offensive players as well. On this next play, we will see the highlighted offensive player, Tobias Harris, drive toward the paint, but he then stops short and he uses his off arm to push off his legal defender, Alec Burks. This contact initiated by Harris is more than marginal, and an offensive foul is correctly called by the trail official. As we know, the freedom of movement guidelines encompass both the perimeter and the post area. Here we will see the highlighted defensive player, Al Horford, use his right leg to dislodge the offensive player, Brook Lopez, from his legally obtained position. The replays clearly show the illegal contact as Horford's right leg is lifted off the floor and Lopez is dislodged. Next, we will look at an example of illegal contact initiated by an offensive player in the post. The highlighted offensive player, Jonathan Kuminga, starts his drive to the basket by hooking his legal defender, Brandon Clark, with his left arm. This is illegal contact by Kuminga, as players are not permitted to hook their opponents in any way. The next part of the freedom of movement guidelines to review is contact on screens. Here we will see an illegal screen set against a moving opponent. The highlighted offensive player, Royce O'Neal, does not give his opponent, R.J. Hampton, an opportunity to avoid the contact, and an illegal screen was correctly called. To be considered legal, the screener must get directly into his opponent's path and give him the opportunity to avoid contact. Here is another example of an illegal screen against a moving opponent, this time in a pick-and-roll situation. The defensive player, Ja Morant, attempts to go under the screen set by Mitchell Robinson, but Robinson then rolls toward the basket and he makes illegal contact with Morant. Since Robinson did not give Morant an opportunity to avoid the contact, this is correctly ruled to be an illegal screen on Robinson. Keep your eye on the highlighted player, Jackson Hayes, as he sets a screen for his teammate, Brandon Ingram. Hayes sets his legs too wide, outside shoulder width, and as the defender, Davion Mitchell, attempts to go over the screen, Mitchell trips over Hayes' extended leg. An offensive foul for an illegal screen was needed on this play. The next play in this section is an example of an offensive player affecting a defensive player's freedom of movement. The highlighted offensive player, Kenyon Martin Jr., moves to set a screen, but he then extends both arms and he pushes the on-ball defender, Kent Bazemore. This illegal contact clearly affects Bazemore's ability to play defense, and the offensive foul was called correctly by the trail official. The next type of illegal screen that we will see is an illegal handoff screen. As the highlighted offensive player, Corey Kispert, hands the ball off to his teammate, Bradley Beal, he then continues moving forward and he moves into the path of the trailing defender, Joe Ingles. Kispert clearly does not give Ingles the opportunity to avoid contact here, and the offensive foul was correctly called.